Hello everybody, this is Sherry at djsundry.blogspot.com, and today I have a thank you note for you. Now I don't know about you at your house, but at my house there's so many thank you notes I need to write during the holiday season, and I have a pretty good stash of fall type thank you notes, but I wanted one specifically for Christmas. So that's what we're going to make today. So we're going to get a few supplies. The first thing that we're going to do is the base of my card's going to be out of craft cardstock. Now I just pick up craft cardstock by the package, either at Michael's or Joann's. I think this one was a pack I picked up at Joann's. And I've cut this at 4 1/4 inches wide by 11 inches long, and then I've scored it in the middle. And I'll show you more about that in a few minutes. And then I had this garland that I picked up at Walmart one year after Christmas when it was on clearance, and it reminds me of little snowballs. So I want to use some of that. We're going to play with it a little bit and change it up a little bit, but we will use some of that. For inks, I will be using the Tim Holtz Distress ink, the Ice Spruce, which was one of the special edition inks this year. And then I'll also be using Versamark. And I have some white embossing powder that I will be using. And then I have, from Can Company, I have these little jewels, and I'm going to be using one of the round ones. I'm not sure which yet. We'll just have to see which one is the best size. And then from Sizzix and Basic Gray, they have teamed up together to make a combination die cut and embossing folders, and I'm actually using every one of these. There's 2 embossing folders, and I'll show you how I use those in a minute, and then there's a little snowflake die cut, and I'm using those. The stamps I'm going to be using today is from K. Andrew Designs, and this is the Winter Wishes set. Now K. Andrew Designs has several sets of stamps available, and you can find those by going to kandrewdesigns.com, and I'll put a link for this particular set on the blog. But they have a lot of other sets out there, and they're all made in the USA. They're made of a good polymer that it's just wonderful stamping material. And then a portion of the proceeds of every stamp set goes to a charity. This particular one, Winter Wishes, the charity is Adopt a Classroom. And I love the fact that these are mix and match. So I can mix and match my sayings to get whatever I want to say. And I can mix and match within sets, and I've done that before as well. So the 2 stamps that I'm going to be using are Warm and Thanks. And I've already put those together on my stamp pad so that we can get ready. So let's get started on the card. Now, we're going to start kind of with the inside out, and we just move. I've already cut all the pieces, and we'll talk about those in a minute. Now, this is a craft, and I did something a little different than what I normally do on this one. I embossed it with that snowflake embossing folder, but I embossed it on the inside. My outside is plain, although it did go over a little bit, but I think that will be fine. My inside is plain. Or my outside is plain, but my inside is embossed. And that's because I just wanted to add just a little extra dimension to the inside. So I do want to distress these pieces. So we're going to get the spruce, and I'm not sure how well it's going to show up. Oh, it does show up very nicely on the craft. This is one of my favorite colors of this season's distress inks that he came out with. I just love it, and I love the way the embossing picks up the distress ink as well. And I'm just lightly distressing it. We don't need a lot here. And then I have this little piece, and this piece is actually 1 inch wide by 3 3/4 inches long, or 1 inch tall by 3 3/4 inches wide. We're going to ink that up as well, just slightly, and it just fades right into that color. It blends so perfectly. And then this is the part that we will actually write on, and this is just a piece of white, and it's 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And we'll just ink around that. It just when you ink around the edges, it just provides such a nice finish to your, it just gives it that little more finished look to all of your projects. But especially, I especially like it to with cards. So, you know, since we're inking, let's just go ahead and do it all. This is actually for the outside, and this is the other embossing folder that's in that same set. And this is going to be, go on the base of the outside of my card. And I just want to lightly ink that as well, and I'll give you the size on that in just a second. I believe it is about 4 inches, 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And actually, I think what I'm going to do on this, now most of this will be covered, so I don't need to go too far on the inside, but I'm actually going to go a little bit further than normal and not just ink the edges of this one, but I'm going to ink inside just a little bit further so that it will provide a nice background. Now this will be the next mat, and this one's 4 3/4 inches tall by 3 1/2 inches wide. And again, this is the same blue paper that is going on the inside of the card. Now this paper I picked up last Christmas. I picked up a couple of stacks for some projects I was doing from K & Company. And that's what this is just scraps for. In fact, everything in this card is I've pulled out of my scraps, with the exception of the card base itself. I don't generally have in craft, I usually don't have pieces big enough to do the card base. And this piece here, this is going to go on the outside as well, and it's 3 3/8 inches wide by 1 3/4. Now actually, I'm going to adhere that to this one, and so it's actually just a tiny bit too wide, and I'm going to trim it down, but I will be sure to trim it. I added extra ink to one of the edges so that I can trim it, and if I need to go back and add a little bit of extra ink, I will. But the reason I like to do that is it's so hard for me to get the exact measurement that I want width-wise, and so I would just prefer to go back and trim it. And then the last piece, this is the little die that's included in that set, and it's a snowflake. And so I'm going to just ink around that just lightly, and it's kind of delicate, so I can't ink it as I normally would, but I still want to add that dimension of this ink on it. Okay, so we have all of our pieces inked, so we can set that aside. I'm just going to grab and wipe off my craft mat because I don't want everything to end up with blue on the background, the icy blue. Okay, so now we're ready to start putting our card together. And you'll, this card's going to go together very quickly. Another thing I wanted to show you real quick is this is the negative space that I cut this out of, and I think I'll save this because you could cut it out either with a circle or something and make another card with that, or find something fun to do with it. And if I don't find something fun to do with it, I'll just eventually throw it away. So let's start putting our pieces together. Now I'm not going to put all of our pieces together because I don't want to put the ones that I'm stamping together, obviously. And I've decided I want this to be the top where the snowflake's going to go. Now this piece, once I get it trimmed to the right size, may actually need to be inked just a little bit more. So that's why I wanted to do it first, so that then we can completely put that ink away. Grab my handy dandy little scissors there. And I think I do need just a little bit more ink. Not much, just enough to just finish off the edge. There we go. Okay, so let's finish off the inside here. And I see that I kind of got a little more ink than I necessarily wanted to down here. So we'll make that be the bottom, and that'll make that look just a little bit better. It won't look as big as, it won't look like it's a big mistake by doing it that way. And this will allow us to just finish off the inside and close that up. There we go. I know for me the most time-consuming part of the card is deciding what colors I want to use and how I want to put them together, and going through all the paper that I have. And once that is done, the cards usually go together fairly quickly. So there's plenty of room there for me to write a note to the recipient of my card. And it just gives it a nice little finished look to have that extra part in there. And plus I couldn't have written on those embossed notes anyway. So then let's put this piece down. Now I mentioned that I had used scraps to do this, and here's a hint that I use. Now the first hint here is that I'm using lots of adhesive on this particular piece because it's embossed and I want it to be sure and adhere down. And then if you notice on the back here, I was practicing some stamps. I was trying to determine what color I wanted to use, make sure I had paper to match for another project. And so but it doesn't matter, you can still use it because nobody sees it. Now this one, there's just a very narrow border around it. I wanted the craft to show because it matches so well, but I wanted the white to be a little more dominant than normally. I would put a little bit wider border around than that. Okay, so now we're ready to stamp our image. And I have this piece all ready to go. And I have my stamp set up here and ready to go. Now the first thing I want to do is I have this pad, and I've had this for years. I don't even know if it's available anymore. It's kind of like it has baby powder or something in it. But I just wipe that over that. Now a dryer sheet will do the same thing. But the reason I'm doing that is because I want to pick up all the static and anything that would make a mess when I go to emboss. Because I don't want my I don't want extra embossing powder around my image. So I'm going to ink up my stamp, and like I said, it says warm thanks, and it's all set up just the way I want it to be. So let's put a little more ink on there just in case. Okay, and I'm going to center that, and pardon my head as it gets in the picture. I want it towards the top because there's another element we're going to add in the bottom. Stamp that down well and pull that off. And I thought about just leaving it like that because with Versamark you can see that and it looks really pretty with the craft. But I want to tie in all the white elements that we have as well. So let's grab a piece of scratch paper here. This is paper I was using earlier on a different project. And I'm just going to sprinkle this down. And I know it looks kind of a dirty, muddy color, but it will come out white. And there, we'll just set that aside. And now we're going to heat emboss it. Now my heat embosser is very old. I was telling my husband earlier today that I think in my Christmas stocking this year I need a new heat embosser. I've actually used my heat embosser to remove kitchen tiles, old kitchen tiles and different things, and it's reaching its limit. So I'm going to go off camera for just a minute and use my heat embosser to emboss, get that embossed, and then we'll come back and finish it. Okay, so we're back, and I think I could have gotten away with putting those a little bit closer together, but I think it still looks good. So now what I'm going to do is, if you remember correctly, I had that pom-pom trim, and it was actually spread apart so badly that the distance it was apart, I could only get 2, maybe 3 little pom-poms on here, and I wanted it to look a little bit fuller than that. So what I did, this is actually wire, and I actually bent it so that I could bring those balls just a little bit closer together so that we could get a few more to kind of finish off. I just think it reminds me of snow flurries. And because it's wire, it will very easily curl around the back. Now, I'm not trying to put this in a straight line. In fact, it's kind of making a little circle there. And that's just how I want it. Now, I could just leave it like that, but I would feel better just giving it a little extra security. So I'm just putting a little piece of Scotch tape on either end just to make sure that it doesn't move around on my project. And then it just a little. Now, if I wanted to, I could go back and put some glue on that, some Tombow Mono or some quick dry or something, but I think I'm just going to leave it. I think it's going to hold up well. And then we'll just get this adhered to our card. We are just about done with this card. Now, the back of this paper, I'm always saying I use lots of adhesive, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but the back of this paper has these reindeer on it, and it's actually flocked. So, and then it's going on top of the embossing. So between the two of them, we definitely need plenty of adhesive, because I don't want my card to come apart in the mail when I'm mailing it to the people that I'm telling thank you. And so now we have our little snowflake here. And for this, I'm going to just grab some glue. This is a brand new pen I've not used. Haven't had the time to get the ink down, or the glue down in it, so it's going to take a second for it to come down. There it comes. And this is just a little zig two-way. I could add some dimensional adhesive to it. I don't really want to, because there are enough dimensional elements to this card that I already may be borderline on needing extra postage for it. So I would just as soon not pay extra postage if I can avoid it. So I'll grab that. I'll just center that right there. Now it kind of blends in with the background, but that's okay, because there's one more thing I'm going to add which will bring your eye back to that, and that is one of these little brads. And I think actually I'm going to go with the smaller one. I thought I'd originally planned to go with the larger one, but now that I see it, I think I definitely want the smaller one. And that just fits very nicely, ties all of the colors are all tied in by that last little brad, or that little embellishment. So there's our card. Thanks for watching, and have a great day, and be sure and check out K. Andrew Designs to purchase these great stamps. Have a great day, and come back for more projects.